It's been an ongoing battle, some dedicating their lives to end homelessness, while at the same time others are fighting against the presence of social services. Petitions, rallies. A 2014 poll commissioned by Van City says only 13% of Surrey residents rated their city as safe. Everyone seems to agree on one thing: to provide services to end homelessness, to end addiction, to end crime. But not in my backyard.
We were ignored and the homeless shelter was located in our neighborhood.
If we provide food, then that prevents people from having to go and steal in order to be able to eat. If we can provide access to free clothing or household items, things that people need in everyday life, that stops them from going and shoplifting at a local store.
But what do experts say about social housing?
Mixing uses in a same development doesn't seem to be, working that well, but having a social housing project that isn't very large anyway, it seems to fit in. Nobody, I think, if they didn't know it was a social housing project, would even think it is, because it's such a nice building. In terms of property values, that, I would say no impact. The property values are really determined by a whole set of other factors that have nothing to do with whether there is a social housing project located there.
But what about homeless shelters and addiction and mental health treatment centers?
The studies that we have done, the studies that the provincial government have done, have shown there's no direct correlation between a center in a community and increased crime. If there's increased crime in communities, it's to deal with people that aren't located in the centers.
Being one of those people, like they like to call us, I wouldn't even help us at the way some of us behave. It's an embarrassment, but some people are just stuck on stupid, but there are a lot of good people out here. You've got everyone from criminals to junkies to the crazy to me. I don't know which side of the fence I fall on, but sort of walk the fence.
We definitely have an image problem, and we need to work every day on selling ourselves. We need to sell Surrey. It's a great city, it's got great resources, it's got great people, it's got great businesses, it's got great events. It used to be the city of parks. There used to be optimism for Surrey. And I think we need to change that narrative and get back to that message. I think if we focus on the positives, focus on the great things that are happening in Surrey, then we can galvanize our community. And there's always room to realign things and look at how we can do things differently. I'm a big proponent of finding new ways to solve the same solution, because if we keep on doing the same approach, then we're going to have the same results.
We bring in a population that's predominantly male. They have drug addiction problems. When we were doing a petition about the homeless shelter, I learned from community members that they were happy there until about a year and a half prior to when we did the petition. When I realized that's when they put the provincial probation office in our neighborhood. So we had the probation office, the homeless shelter, drug and alcohol recovery, the clubhouse for mentally ill.
There's actually now a whole broad spectrum of people that are homeless. So every year I'm involved in this homeless couch, so I walk around the streets and sort of see, people are homeless. Yes, there are a lot of people that do have mental health and substance abuse issues, but there's also people that before they were homeless, they were one paycheck away from being homeless.
Believe it or not, I never thought I would be in this position, but I'm homeless. I went to college. I have a degree in business administration, and because I'm on permanent disability and I'm 57 years old, I can't work. I've been living in my van with my husband now for on and off for about 3 months now. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle to find food. It's a struggle just, to stay warm.
I think that when there is a large concentration of people who are, with similar sort of problems, mental health, substance abuse issues, those kinds of things, that becomes an issue because of the visibility of the people that are being served. So, when there's a shelter or there's places where they're giving meals, people are lined up. So in the downtown east side, when you go to the downtown east side, you always see this. That becomes more obvious, and what people don't like to see is they don't like to see, the discrepancies and the inequalities in our society right in their face.
Wow, they're not paying attention to locational guidelines. That's something that you shouldn't have a drug and alcohol recovery facility within 600 meters of their elementary school.
So in terms of location of these services, where should they be? Or...
Right, okay. That is, quite frankly, you need actually more research on that, to look at that. I think that some uses would be fine to actually be totally integrated into residential neighborhoods. I think that there's recovery homes, I know in Surrey, that are totally integrated into residential communities, and people don't really even know necessarily that there's recovery homes there, So because that has a small enough population and people may be coming and going, but it isn't so obvious.
We sometimes are questioned about do we cause social problems because we provide services like our clubhouse here or our social service center downtown or programs like the Surrey Urban Mission. And we've been around for 43 years. We have a center in the heart of Yaletown, high density community. We have virtually zero complaints about any of the community, serving hundreds of people with serious mental illness for years. And so we know that we can coexist within the community if you run a program that actually helps people.
We all got to live together. So homelessness is, you can be looked after, homelessness, but don't impose on other people. We've got the businesses around, we've got, resident people that own their own homes and that. If you could try not to screw them up, stay away from trying to screw up other people's lives just because you're fucking screwed your own up, pardon the language.
That's true. It could have a very negative impact on the business. So that is an issue. Again, I think that thinking about the location, I think, is really important.
Our city relies on small business and on the people that are employed in those businesses. So I think that service organizations need to recognize that we have to work in partnership with. And often people have perceptions of what they believe will happen if there's a service serving people who are homeless or people who are vulnerably housed. And we need to do a better job of communicating.
Oh, I think it's a great place. Not that I've had to use it as much as, I guess, other people in the neighborhood. You got to eat somewhere, and you can't just, create more problems by trying to steal food. But in this neighborhood, anyway, they look after everyone quite well, I think, anyway.
Our society is doing everything we can to support what shelters that we do need, and we're trying to disperse that throughout the community that are purpose-built, that will be able to have very low impact in the community, and they have proved to be very successful. I would say the federal government particularly should put together a national housing strategy, and the provincial government should play a strong partnership role there, and services through the social infrastructure services, particularly with people that have mental health and drug and alcohol issues. We need services to support those people, to keep them in the housing once they're there.
People have done economic studies. It's costing society too much actually to have them be homeless. SFU did a study a few years back, said it was around $55,000 a year per homeless person. And to house that person with all the services needed would be much less than that. And so the government's noticed that, and so they've actually developed some new approaches to reaching out to homeless people, particularly with mental health and addiction services. It's not sufficient, but they've actually, hopefully we're moving in the right direction.
I wish that Justin Trudeau and Stephen Harper, Christy Clark could all come down here for one day. Live in these people's shoes for one day. And I bet you they wouldn't last. There is no way.
In a perfect world, I think we need to have a federal government for whom homelessness is a key issue. They need to recognize that we need to be building affordable housing for folks across the country. Does it make sense that you take people and put them in housing who have been unhoused for 15 years and expect that just because they have 4 walls and a key that they're going to be a successful tenant? We need to have the resources and the supports in place to help people to reach the point where they become self-sufficient, where they do not need to have those services anymore.
Build more housing. It has to be affordable rental housing. So that's one thing. The other thing is, so that's for people who just really, can't afford, rent. The other people who have, substance abuse, mental health issues, I mean, they need more support. But we actually seem to be addressing that segment of the population, but not really addressing the kind of working poor, the low-income people that really are sort of, scrambling to survive in this incredibly expensive region.
What would you say to the business community and to residents who are saying, not in my backyard?
Well, if it's not in your backyard, then whose backyard is it going to be in? I mean, it has to be, we as a country have a responsibility to house our citizens, and no one should really be homeless in Canada.
We are one community and we all have to do our part, and the issues aren't going to go away, and if we pretend that they don't exist or pretend they don't affect us, then we're going to have serious problems in the long term.
These good people here want to do work, volunteer work for the church and help me out in any way. I've often volunteered to help them too, and I'd do anything for any of these people if they ask me to do anything. So whatever you receive, just be thankful for it, and then if you can help anybody else for that at any other time in your life, I think you should do it just for the sheer way of paying everything back that you got it in the first place. So it's good.